Welcome to the Intuitive Ascending Mind podcast. Today, I want to share with you some previous shows that we've had on the success frequency because there's so much good knowledge that's on that show. And I wanted to incorporate some of that information over to the Intuitive Ascending Mind podcast because in that show, I really talked about the mind. I talked about what makes us successful. And I had some phenomenal guests that shared some of their insights as to what made them successful. And these are all beneficial little nuggets that I know you will enjoy. So take a listen, enjoy. Peace and blessings, my friend.
Welcome to the Success Frequency with host Aliyah Yasmin. Over the next hour, you're going to learn the impact in your life that results from your way of thinking. Aliyah and her guest will explore the best ways to achieve growth for you. Now, here's Aliyah.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Success Frequency. Joining me today in the studio is Nadia Reginato, a financial advisor, and Mauro Campagnaro. This is going to be Financial Mastery Part 2. He is a professional holistic financial planner. I can't wait to get some feedback from you guys. This is going to be a very exciting conversation.
Thank you very much, Aliyah, for the invite as well. Appreciate that.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. Welcome, Nadia.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us.
My pleasure. So let's talk a little bit about financial advisor versus a professional holistic financial planner.
You want to start with that?
Yes.
No problem. No problem. I think I really want to stress, the difference between what people's perceptions are of folks in our industry. There's a lot of folks that may be focusing on one aspect or another of this entire industry, which is vast. There's many, many things you can focus in on. And, you've got people that focus in on just insurance. I'm an insurance salesperson. I sell insurance. Now, it doesn't mean that they don't do a needs analysis. They have to look at the client. They have to do a needs analysis, understand what the need is of an insurance policy. There are other folks that just deal with the investments. So we're going to just deal with investments. We're going to grow your money over the long term. And we're going to have an exit strategy of some way, shape, or form. We hope that's been the conversation, and then they build that. Then there's folks that do the debt. So now we're talking about mortgages. We might have unsecured lines of credit. We might have credit cards, things like that. Those are the debt facilitators, right? Then there's savings accounts. You might look at a bank. You might look at insurance companies. They have high interest rate savings accounts as well. And the way I'll put it all together is I've had the experience throughout my life. I've gone to my financial advisor, quote unquote. However, they were only dealing with the money side.
Right.
Then I went to my insurance person, and they would only deal with the insurance piece. And when I went out into business for myself, naively, I said, well, you know what? I got my money taken care of. I've got my retirement funding and so on and so forth. And then I've got some funding for the company. And then, well, I have liability. And I wanted to make sure that my family was properly taken care of so should something happen to me in the business. And so I got insurance, but personal insurance. I didn't even get business insurance because the insurance person I was dealing with obviously didn't understand that aspect, I suppose. I'm assuming things here, so I don't know for sure, but we didn't have the discussion. So I got personal insurance, and I had, I think it was like a $3 million policy just for me and to cover off the business and should anything happen. When I pivoted out of that industry that I was in, and I sold my business, and then I helped another company grow theirs, and I finally said, enough is enough. I want to do what I'm passionate about. And we talked about this yesterday in your seminar as well, is that, I wanted to really delve into what do I want? What do I love to do? Right. Yeah. And we talked about that was giving back to people and helping people because that is what we're made to do.
Yes.
And by doing that, I realized that, the financial services industry is exactly what I've been designed to do my entire life. I've always been playing around it, but I never focused on it. And now that I get to do it full time, it's like, okay, well, who am I and how do I shape myself to actually help somebody from a holistic perspective?
I love the holistic part. Yeah.
Right? And so when you look at the holistic perspective, you say, okay, well, if I'm going to gather information on a client, yes, I do focus on entrepreneurs, but there are people in that entrepreneurial journey who are actually human beings doing another piece of their life, and then maybe their spouse is not part of the business, they have a job, there always is going to be an asset. There's going to be a house. There might be some retirement funding. There might be some debt in there. Okay, let's gather all that information. So as I gather the information, I'm starting to look at every single puzzle now. And I always stress that cash is a 4-letter word. It's king.
Yes.
Cash is king. In whatever shape or form you want to call that and how you want to understand cash is king, but cash flow is the piece that's really, really important, because without cash flow, you really can't generate anything.
Oh, yeah.
And so you must have a mechanism called a job or some sort of employment or something that drives cash flow into your life. But then what do you do with that cash flow? And how are you going to take the cash flow after you've paid all of your living expenses to drive the investment so that in the long term, as we get older and our knees start to give out, that we cannot do the same things we used to do as a young person, that eventually we want that money that we're working for so hard today to actually work for us in retirement.
Absolutely.
So how do I do that? Well, I start to look at cash flow in the beginning. Where are we going to find that money to actually invest so that we can grow that money in the future? Be it from, do we restructure your mortgage and your debt? There are certain ways that we can do that so we can actually eliminate a mortgage payment, believe it or not.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't mean the debt's gone. It just means we're going to eliminate a payment.
Is that like a reverse mortgage type?
Well, kinda.
Okay.
But guess who owns the asset and the debt?
You do.
Correct.
Okay.
The individual does. Okay. There's always an institution, but the individual now has full control.
Oh.
So it's not like a reverse mortgage where you may be giving up the debt to another organization saying, okay, fine, here's my asset. Now just pay me an income for the rest of my life.
Okay.
And by the way, when I pass away, you get to own the asset. That's not the way it is. This is a debt where you actually attach the debt and you'll control the debt.
Okay.
Okay, so that's one way of getting rid of a mortgage. And then the other ways are, let's make sure that we're getting rid of bad debt first. Well, what's bad debt?
Credit cards.
Correct. So your credit cards. You ever heard of the Rule of 72?
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, sounds familiar, right? So the Rule of 72 tells us how long does it take me to double my money?
Okay.
So the Rule of 72 is you're going to take your compound interest rate and you're going to divide it into 72, and it gives you the number of years it's going to take you to double your money. So I use an example of 6%. That's a reasonable rate of return over the long term. You're getting 6%. You divide that into 72. It takes you 12 years to double your money. So if you're a credit card company and you're charging 20% on the money that you've borrowed from your credit card, how fast are they doubling their money?
Insane.
About 3 to 3.5 years it takes them to double their money on your behavior.
Absolutely.
So if we can change behavior, which is your wheelhouse, how do we change behavior? Human nature is when I have money, I spend it.
Yeah.
If we can control that, then all of a sudden we're taking away the power from those who give us that resource, and we're taking it back and saying, let's get rid of that bad debt first.
Yeah.
Because that's doing nothing for me. I cannot overachieve that rate of return by investing my money.
Right.
Definitely not. Okay. Maybe some other individuals you can do some things in the short term, but boy, those are really high risk events that happen if you can make your money that quickly. So that's one piece. So I started with the cash flow. So when we look at the holistic piece, again, going back to holistic, okay, now we've created a cash flow mechanism. What do we do with that money now? What are the right investment vehicles? For what reason?
Because not everybody's cut out to do the same type of, they're not all going to go the same investment path.
No, and before we even start that, good thing you brought that up, is we have to do an investor profile. But here's the key with investor profiles, is that a little bit of information, a little bit of knowledge is powerful, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So if you're gearing towards conservative or very conservative, let's say, or balanced, but you want the big growth. It's a bit of an oxymoron. And so when I talk to people about risk, and I ask specifically, what does risk mean to you? And they look at me dumbfounded and like, I hadn't really thought about it, right? And so then you get the odd answer. It's like, well, I think risk is I'm going to lose my money.
Right.
Okay, what does that mean? Somebody's dialed into losing money. Well, if I lose my money, that means you've actually crystallized an event, or you've actually had an event where you've sold an asset when it was low and you lost your principal down to whatever the value was.
Right.
That's actually a real loss. Right? It's a realized loss. Whereas if you're only seeing it on paper, so I always say, well, how old are you? How much time do you have in the market?
Yeah.
Well, what market are we talking about? Depends on what asset class you're invested in.
Stock market, or
are you in real estate?
Yeah.
right? Are you in the gold market? I don't know about Bitcoin yet. That's still an outlier.
Yeah.
But if you're in the investment world, you're what are you investing in the investment world?
Right.
Now we look at the graph and say, okay, over the last 30, 40, 50 years, what's happened to the market? Have we had a few crashes along the way?
Absolutely.
Have we had a bear market and a lot of bull markets? Because bear markets, they say, generally last 3 to 5 years. A bear market lasts 7 to 10, depending. But the trajectory of the market is up. So if the market continues to go up, then obviously history is only an indicator of what our future performance might be, not that it's going to be that way. But at the end of the day, if we look historically, the market's always gone up. And so as assets continue to grow, well, then we look at the time frame. How long does it take me to absorb all of the volatility in the marketplace?
Right.
Now, if you're my age, you're going to have a little bit less time. Okay, I'm almost 60 and we're getting a little closer to the retirement age. And so I'm going to be still aggressive. I'm going to be more on the growth scale because I'm not going to take my money out when I'm 65, 70, 80 years old, or whenever you decide to retire. You leave it invested. Now what I want that money to do is actually provide me with cash flow, right? So that's the question I ask is, what is risk to you? If you have enough time, is that not risk? Because if I have enough time to absorb the volatility in the marketplace, surely my investment should grow. So if I'm in the real estate market, how much time do I let it incubate for? If I'm in the stock market, how long do I let it incubate for?
Right.
Well, I'm going to put a bunch of money in and I'm going to dollar cost average into the market because I'm going to buy the peaks and the valleys in the market, right? And let it grow. Let it do what it does. Meanwhile, I'm going to live my life.
Right.
Now, what I'm going to do, that little bit of scratch I got left over at the end of the month, I'm going to have a little fun. I got to live my life. Okay?
Yes, absolutely.
And that's what I encourage. You got to live your life. At the end of the day, be pragmatic about what you're doing with your money. So that's a holistic approach, kind of in its infancy, and it's looking at every aspect of somebody's life. And I got to start with the debt. I started with cash flow, and then we ebb into what kind of investments do you have, and then we look at the insurance piece. What are you covering off in terms of the inevitability of something happening? Critical illness, maybe you get ill or disabled and you can't go to work. We got to cover off income, or we pass away and we want to leave a legacy and something back for someone we love. And the fourth one is, why are we not using it as an investment vehicle? Now, I'm Canadian, so in Canada, our investment vehicles are. There's only 4 things that are actually tax-free in Canada. One is your principal residence. So America's going to go, what? Now, we don't get to write off the interest on our mortgages, but in Canada, we don't write off the interest on our mortgages, on our principal residence. Okay, so that asset, when we sell it, we get to take the equity out of it tax-free. Now, is that a good strategy or bad strategy? That's something to be discussed, because at the end of the day, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, food, shelter, clothing, I need a shelter, and my home really is shelter. Yeah. So I don't look at it as an asset, really, unless you've borrowed money out of it to buy an asset that generates cash flow.
Right.
Okay. The other piece is tax-free lottery winnings. So lottery winnings in Canada are tax-free. However, is that a strategy? Not really, right? That's a wish and a hope.
That's a luck. Statistically against
if you win, right? So if you win, great, good for you. You got money tax-free. The other one is tax-free savings account. So it's kind of like what you guys would call as a Roth IRA-ish. Okay. So that's tax-free. I call it an investment account.
Okay.
Because if you're not taxed on something, isn't it something you want to really maximize and dump a lot of money into it?
Absolutely.
Now, there is a maximum, but however, that's a good one. The last one is tax-exempt insurance policies. That's the missing piece for a lot of folks because they don't really understand it. They haven't been told about it. So those are the 4 things in Canada that are tax-free. And the last one that I mentioned, tax-exempt insurance policies, that's for an individual and more importantly for a business owner. Because what do business owners do? Well, they have a business account. They have a business. They're running a business. Well, in that corporation, if you're a corporation, which is I think an S Corp here, right?
You could be an S Corp or a C Corp here.
Yeah, exactly. And so either one, but that is a mechanism where in order to get money out of there, you have to pay tax. So the way we design this is we put this insurance policy in place so that that money can grow inside the corporation because the corporation is going to own that asset. It's going to grow inside there tax-free, tax-exempt, and then we're going to attach mechanism to that to get the money out tax-free. Yeah. So now we're talking about advanced strategies, right? I haven't even talked about charity, but that's a whole other subject as well. So there's a charitable giving strategy too. Yeah.
Sounds great. We're getting ready for our first break here. When we get back, we'll touch a little bit more on some of this juicy stuff.
Sublime Knowledge Mindset Coaching offers guaranteed results. 100% of clients reported seeing positive changes in their mindset after just one session. Clients learn to release negative thoughts, feelings, and emotions, improving their overall well-being. Create the life you've always envisioned for yourself. Shift your mindset after one session, or your money back, guaranteed. Welcome back to the Success Frequency with Aliyah Yasmin. We hope you are finding these tools and tips applicable to your own situations in life. Now, back to the show.
Welcome back to the Success Frequency. I am sitting here with Mauro, and he is explaining different strategies for financial planning and how to have a holistic approach at it. So let's pick back up where we left off. Let's talk a little bit about the charity part of it.
Yeah, that's a whole other subject on its own. So I'm kind of going to leave that one alone, just because it's such an advanced strategy that there are other ways in terms of, and it's more of a legacy piece, really, where and it's not just for wealthy people, but it lends itself to wealthy people where they've got a massive estate or they have a massive tax burden on their estate they want to offset through charity. And so there are insurance policies that you can buy, and there's different ways of doing it. I mean, you're going to purchase an insurance policy where the charity might be paying for the insurance policy, but they're also the beneficiary, or you're paying for the insurance policy and you've designed this so that the charity gets the insurance policy.
Okay.
And so by doing so, you get a tax credit. Okay, so you can do that corporately or individually.
Okay.
Tax credit's a little bit different, but you're going to get the tax credit. By getting a tax credit, that takes care of the taxes that are owed on the estate or whatever piece of that puzzle is. Yeah, so that's just another advanced planning strategy that you would do with folks.
Yeah, where do you find most of your clients kind of fall?
Well, I mean, my focus really is on the entrepreneur.
Okay.
Right, that is my avatar, and because I've been, I think we talked about this in the last time, and that's what I wrote my chapter about in the book. Well, as you wrote a chapter with Brian Tracy as well, just that is really the folks that I resonate the most with, because I've been there. I understand their pain points, and when we talk about certain aspects of an entrepreneur's life and the financial statements and all like that kind of, I can talk the jargon. I can even talk to, and that's what I do too. I consult, because at the end of the day, I've been where they've been.
Yeah.
I've grown a business, and there's only really two ways to growing a business. It's either you're starting from the bottom up, you're trying to find clients, you're trying to build a business. You're the janitor one minute, the next minute you're CEO, the next minute you're CFO, the next minute you're salesperson. And you're doing that. So you're a solopreneur, then you build your entity, and all of a sudden you become more of a leader, coach, or mentor, whatever the design of the company is. And so I did that. I got a chance to do that. And then I actually had an opportunity to sell the business to another individual who gave me carte blanche to run his company. Mm-hmm. Now, his company was sizable. It had, we were running at roughly $17 million in revenue that year, up to that point. And then after a few conversations, he could see that I came with a whole other intellectual capital. I'm not saying, I'm not bragging or anything, but just saying I came with information that he didn't have from working with the multinational companies on the supplier side. And some of the big brands, I'm not going to name them here, but I work for some really big brands. Well, through that, I was able to get some really good information, some good learnings. And I came to that company with these really good learnings. And then all of a sudden, I used those learnings he gave me carte blanche to build that company.
Right.
Okay. Now, I was the catalyst, but there was a whole pile of people on that team that helped us grow that business. We went from 17 to almost $40 million in 4 years and doubled our profits and doubled our revenue. And it was just crazy. It was beautiful.
So let's go back. I want to ask a question for the entrepreneurs that are listening to this podcast right now. How do you take it from like 0 to the 17 million? Like, I feel like you want to enter into the 6-figure first, then into the 7-figure, and then into 8-figure. Like, what is the thing that you think that most entrepreneurs are missing the mark on, or maybe not focusing enough on, that will bridge that gap?
I might have to ask you the question.
Ah,
Because didn't we
we
review
talked
this in the
about
last
this
2
yesterday.
days?
Yeah.
So let's hear your answer first, and then we'll go back to mine.
So what I've discovered just on my own journey is, like I've explained, there's the L1, there's the L2, and there's the L3 method, and this encompasses in business as well, because the L1 is trading time for money. And when you are the solopreneur and you're doing all these other tasks, you have to, at some point, step back and say, what tasks are taking too much of my time and who can I hire to take care of these tasks?
Yep.
So that, to me, that's the first step. And then as you go into the second step, it's L2, which is money for money. So what do I take the money that we've made with the company so far, and what do I invest in that's going to make more money for the company? You know, like, is it a better CRM system? Is it what is it? And then the third is multiple sources of income. But I teach this to individuals in order to structure that for themselves. But as a business, you can start to structure that within the business as well. How to create different sources of income coming into the business. You know, is it books? Is it seminars? But that would be for my type of industry. But I mean, you can apply this to any type of industry, I would assume.
Absolutely. Yeah. But what you're knocking the door on is, okay, what point do I scale?
Yeah.
When can I scale? Because it takes critical mass. And when I say critical mass, it takes a certain amount of volume in terms of dollars. Again, cash is king, because you need the cash in order to afford the assistant that I have.
Right.
For example, I've hired an assistant because my business, and when I say now, I go back to the two ways of building a business. Either you build it from ground up or you buy it. And I had the opportunity this time to go and buy my clients. So I bought 4 books of business last year, a little over a year ago. And then I have the critical mass all of a sudden because there's cash flow that I purchased. Now that cash flow allowed me to actually hire an assistant who I desperately needed because there was just a lot of clients that I had purchased, right? In this business, if you're selling a widget, I don't know, if you're selling a cookie or a chip or a pop or something like that in the grocery business, or you're selling clothing. Well, now you're selling widgets. And now you have to have that critical mass go through so that little profit margin has to allow you enough in there to build in those people into your organization, take that task off of your plate, right? And so that's a very fine line, fine balancing equation is like, at what point do I scale? When can I scale? Now, if I scale and I'm still not comfortable with scaling, what's the impact going to be? Well, it's 2 things. Either you're going to go to the bottom.
Right. If you're not growing, you're dying.
If you're thinking positively, like you're saying, well, hang on. And I've done this. I have proof of concept. I actually hired an assistant with my other business that I first started, and my business doubled within the year. And this time my business doubled within 6 months.
Wow.
So think about all of the tasks that you're spending time on, which you touched on L1, which is I'm an employee and I run tasks all day long.
Yep.
And then you go to L2 and you say, well, hang on, if I dish some of those off, now what's going to happen to my business?
Right.
Where can I refocus my energies? Well, what drives sales? Selling. So now I'm going to refocus my energies on selling.
Yeah.
And I hate that word in my business. I really don't like that word in my business, because my business really is focused on, I'm trying to help you get to a better place. If I'm selling you something, am I really getting you to a better place, or am I lining my own pockets? I'd rather, because we talked about this in the last 2 days, the more people you help get to a better place, the more you shall be rewarded. Don't worry about it.
Absolutely.
Right? So if you're heart-centered and you're making sure you're taking care of other people and you're bringing value, either with a product or with a advice or whatever that is, it will reward you. Yeah. Because that's nature itself, right?
Absolutely.
And so, I think that's
it really is cause and effect. I mean, like as much as you put into something, and people can test this out in any area, but as much energy as you put into something, you're guaranteed a reward after it. So when you put the energy in and you're focused on service and you're really service driven, you will get the clients and you'll get the loyal clients. I mean, you attended a retreat, some of those people it's been years. It's been years of loyalty and years of, commitment to working on themselves. And not all of them are business owners, but some are. And then some are not, but they're still working on themselves. And to me, that's the biggest.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you're doing. Is you're saying to people, look inward And
Yeah.
kept hammering that is like, look in the mirror. That's the person that's going to take you to the next level. Do you believe in that person?
Right.
In the things you've learned during your life? Do you have the wherewithal to actually use all that learning to take you to the next level? Do you have the confidence?
Right. To structure multiple sources of income is easy once you are focused on it. But if you're focused on finding a job, what did you say job was? I love that. Just
Yeah, I mean, job is, you want to say it?
Just above broke.
Just over broke. So, it's over, yeah, just above or over broke. But, we all start there, though.
Yeah.
We all start there. And I'm not taking away from the fact that some people, even with a job, they can make a lot of money.
Yeah, job is
What are they doing?
Pick up your skills. Like that's where you start to learn what you're good at doing, I think. Or
100%.
if you take it seriously and you treat it as though that's your company. I mean, I feel like that's what I've always done when I was working a job. I treated it as though that was my business, but that was a result of me always knowing that I was going to have my own business one day.
And I love that because the way I looked at it is that's free education. They're paying me to get educated because they have all the knowledge.
Exactly.
Well, I'm just going to be a sponge and just soak it all in. I'm going to use that education. Meanwhile, they're paying me. Now, what do I do with the money they pay me? Oh, hang on. So if I restructure myself, my mindset, and say, if I were a corporation myself, what would I be doing to expand my wherewithal and my assets and liability and using some liabilities, but using all the resources I have, the cash flow in order to create wealth for myself as a corporation myself.
Yeah.
Now, you're not necessarily a corporation, but if you think of that way in your mindset, I have a company that I work for that pays me to get educated.
Right.
And yes, I have tasks to do, but I go home and I look at my bank account and I go, okay, where am I going to deploy this cash? Okay,
Right.
I got to live. Okay,
Right.
and then the rest of the money, where do I invest it? Oh, I'm going to invest it in things that deliver multiple sources of income. I'm going to buy real estate, or I'm going to invest in the market, or I'm going to do something different so that I can create cash flow or create wealth. One of the two or both, right? Because they're different concepts.
That's the challenge I think most people don't do. And you also have the option of the 401k. You can be contributing to your own account, and you can have that employee match that. And I've always given the maximum that I possibly could give when I was in those types of jobs. And when I left it, it's amazing to see how much it grew. I remember starting that when I worked in New York years and years ago. And I said, okay, you know what? I'm not going to spend $3-4 on Starbucks every day. I'm going to put that into my 401k. And I remember diligently saying, like, I'm going to avoid Starbucks just to put that in. And that turned into thousands.
Good for you. Yeah. How many years ago was that?
That was 20-something years ago.
And have you observed growth?
Of course.
100%, right?
It's moved. It hasn't even been touched, so it continues to grow.
And in 20 years from now, what's going to happen?
It's going to same thing.
On the rule of 70, on the rule of 72, think about it.
Yeah.
What's the rule of 72 going to deliver to you? So don't forget, it's doubling on doubling.
Yes.
Right? So you're given the opportunity to double, and all of a sudden you've doubled your money. Now you're going to double that double, right? So that's the power of compound interest, and that's why Einstein. It's the eighth wonder of the world, right?
It's crazy how effective it is when you put the right systems in place and when you make the right decisions and when you get educated early. Some of this stuff I think really should be taught in schools. But
I kind of want to just bring Nadia into the equation for a minute. Like, she does help me in my business.
Yeah.
Like, she does. And so she's been instrumental. I do have another assistant. She's full-time, and then Nadia dovetails in a little bit as well. And she helps me a lot with the client interaction, a lot of paperwork and stuff like that. So I got to selfishly say I do have two people on the team kind of to help really with my business. So that helps with extra doubling of my business as well.
What do you want to throw? Any advice in here?
Nope, he's the mentor. I'm learning.
Yeah.
What's been your experience, though, let's say in the last couple of years that you've been kind of exploring this industry and getting involved? What's happened to your kids? What's going on with your life?
Because I wish personally I knew what I knew a long time ago, because I would be retired now, and I met him. He went over, like what he was saying, did all that for me and changed what my outlook and my future.
It's great when somebody can kind of go into it, going into the weeds and really kind of like say, this is where we're at. This is where we want to get to. And it's great to have somebody that can be the observer without emotions, because sometimes emotions like fear steps in. And if you're willing to say, you know what, I trust my money manager And I'm willing to say, hey, you know money, you get this. Figure it out for me. Help me with this. Because it's very personal. Most people don't even want to talk about money. And it's very taboo.
Or their finances.
Yeah, or their finances. It's very taboo. And I've noticed there's a lot of stigma around people opening up about that. And I'm like, if you don't know where you're at, you don't know where you're going. And it's okay wherever you're at, because that's part of your subconscious programming. That's what I've shared with them. That's your paradigm. But to break the paradigm and step into a new paradigm, you got to know where you want to go. We're going to take a little break again. And when we get back, we'll talk a little bit more, maybe about paradigms.
Hi, friends. I have some really exciting news. I have just released the Mental Duality Guide to Life-Changing Results. And this simple guide has transformed so many people's lives, because what it helps to do is it helps to open up your awareness to the areas that you may be feeling unsupported, insecure, fearful, trauma that you may have had from the past that you just need to shed some light on and bring your awareness to. And the guide bridges the gap from a negative space over to a more neutral or a high vibrational frequency. So when we see that it's unsupported that we're feeling, we know dualistically that it is support. We need to feel supported in this life. Or if we're feeling insecure, we know that it's security we need to work on feeling, or maybe confidence that we need to work on feeling. And this guide allows you to open up how you actually feel. It allows you to kind of sift through some of the negative thoughts, feelings, and emotions that you might be experiencing, and have a bridge to move them from a negative space into a positive space. I've had so many clients just see amazing results. And me, myself, I have gone to this guide in order to identify thought patterns that I was experiencing and analyze those thought patterns if they were positive or negative. Sometimes we get a thought just like seeps into our mind and we can't really put it into a category. But when we sit with a program like this, we understand what our underlying feelings might be, and bridging the gap from the negative over to something that's going to be more neutral or more positive is the secret to our personal growth and development. And this guide is going to guide you through that. Hopefully one day you join us for the Intuitive Ascending Mind program, but this guide is free for you to work on. It's personal to you. And what it'll do is that it'll open up your awareness. And once you go through that transition of opening up your awareness, you understand the areas that you need to work on. And it also will give you some wonderful affirmations to help build you foundationally from the ground up into a more positive, more happier, more healthier version of yourself, and more wealthier, of course. Peace and blessings, my friends.
Welcome back to the Success Frequency with Aliyah Yasmin. We hope you are finding these tools and tips applicable to your own situations in life. Now, back to the show.
Welcome back, everybody. We are talking about money. We're talking about finances, how to grow, how to invest. I've got Mauro with me as well as Nadia. And I think I'm going to give the floor to Nadia right now and see what she's got to say about all of this. She is a financial advisor. So what's your advice, Nadia?
Invest.
Invest.
Invest in you. Invest in you.
Yes.
Invest in your money.
Yeah.
Invest in your future, your retirement, your legacy for your family. Because without that, you have zero.
What was your biggest takeaway from Mauro's kind of overlooking or overhauling or mentorship?
I'll just refer it to me when he did an overview of me. I'm a bad spender. No, I spend well. It's tracking it.
Okay.
And it was eye-opening because I never ever had a job where I had a pension.
Okay.
So, and then I went through a divorce. So I basically had nothing, and having that expertise to build something, a legacy, for my retirement, my future, was quite eye-opening.
I think even when you have it all, I almost feel like the game of life will come and, do its thing. Disruption follows intention. So I just feel as though there's always something that will come along that's going to take you off your path for a little bit. But once you've learned something, in talking about paradigms, once you've learned something and you've built a paradigm, you will always be able to jump back in and reestablish what you've done in less time. You don't have to go through that learning curve anymore. You kind of already know, like, okay, do this, 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 and this, and that's going to get me to this point, and then I'll be by that point at a much, shorter time frame. And you really start to manage and manipulate time to a certain degree. Roberto and I talked about that yesterday, and gaining control over time because you're hyper focused on a specific task. What I find interesting is that people don't look at money. Like, they just don't. They don't become hyper focused on where their money's being spent and what they're doing. Are they investing with it? And are they establishing, those multiple sources of income? Where is it going? And a lot of times if they get into the weeds, they find that they have bad spending habits, They want to look rich and be broke.
You even talked about the attitude towards money. A lot of people think it's evil.
Yes, the root of all evil.
Which I don't understand, because if you live in a capitalist society, there's all the opportunity, but it's how you structure yourself and what you do with your money. And she jokingly says, I'm a good spender. And I said, well, okay, you can spend, but are you reconciling what you spend? Because we've got these credit cards, easy, tap, tap, tap. All of a sudden you look at the bill at the end of the month, you go, which has happened? So budgeting is a huge piece. If you're not budgeting your cash flow, and you're saying, let's say I make $5,000 net a month or something like that, or 3,000, whatever it is, whatever the number is, make sure you spend within your means.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
And then understand that if you're going to use that credit card, you better be reconciling it against some sort of spreadsheet or something.
Sure.
Like, I keep a spreadsheet constantly. Yeah. So I understand my cash flow, I understand my expenditures, I understand that I'm going to pay that bill off at the end of the month. Because it's only a tool. It's a tool to make it just easier to transact. But you do not rely on that tool in order to be a facilitator of, counterintuitive to talk about wealth, because it's completely not wealth. You need to understand that that's just a tool, but you got to pay that thing off every month. You do not carry debt, especially on a credit card.
Let me ask you this question. Have you always been that way, or do you remember a paradigm shift?
So now we go way back.
Okay.
My parents are immigrants to Canada from Italy, and they came in the mid-50s. And Dad came here with about $20 in his pocket. And so I watched this as a child growing up. And they were going to the bank with $20 to pay down the mortgage. And that's what we do today. That's our mindset, pay down the mortgage. And they kept saying, we don't have any money, can't afford this, we can't afford that. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? For me, I think it was a good thing, because it made me think that mom and dad aren't there to support me.
Yeah.
So if I don't do it,
you got to figure it out.
I got to figure it out, right? Whereas I think a lot of folks these days, just because they have the affluence, let's not confuse affluence with wealth, because affluence is I have cash flow and I have a good job and I get paid a lot of money. But what do you do with money when you get it? You spend it. So a lot of people that are very affluent are probably a lot more broke than some people who make a lot less.
That's
so
why
your marginal propensity to save. You can Google it, marginal propensity to save. Marginal propensity to save. That is very, very important. I learned that term in university, and I've applied it completely. But going back to, again, my psyche was, I never want to hear those words again, that I can't afford it, because it just got inside me and said, I don't want to live that life. But it was their paradigm. It was their reality. They had to do that because they were new immigrants, and they had to build it from scratch, from day one. And that's why I implore new immigrants today coming to these countries, Canada, United States, wherever you're immigrating to, don't think that mindset. Think that you have the opportunity now to build wealth. It's how you approach the resource called money.
Don't get into the handout mindset. Don't get into the just take care of me mindset.
100%. The government's there to support, but they're also there to tax.
Right.
And so what you need to understand is these are countries that give you the opportunity to build something for yourself. And there's a lot of countries around the world that don't allow you to do that.
Absolutely. That's
so
usually
take that
why they're
opportunity
leaving those
and
countries.
do it. Correct.
Yeah.
And that's why they're coming here.
You know, when you shared, like, I'm good at spending, like, the duality part of me is like to rewire yourself to like say, I'm good at earning.
100%.
I'm good at earning. I'm good at investing. I'm good at, I'm good at money management. Like these are all things that, because women, we do like to spend, and we do, spend on things that they're not assets. They might make you look good, but they're not assets. But yeah, that's interesting. That's absolutely, I always try to look at things dualistically as something filters through the way I'm going to look at it. Like I filter through my thoughts. I filter through the words of like the way people look at things and the way they talk about stuff, because a lot is mentioned in words, and we are programmed to be good spenders. We are solicited and targeted to be good spenders.
All the time. More so today. Didn't we talk about that the other day?
Yeah.
The algorithms are built to sell to us.
Yep.
And that's the struggle even more so today than ever in history, is that we're marketed to at every second of the day that we pick up the phone. What's the first thing we do? Oh, let's go to Facebook. Okay, well, Facebook is tracking all of this, and the algorithms are there. And guess where they're selling that information to? Advertisers. Oh, you looked at that fancy car. Cool. So you got to get out of the mindset of, and you got to control these things. And that's why we talked about the news the other day too, is like the news is a show.
Yeah. It is a show.
Because it's all about the negative. It's all about advertising. Advertising dollars flow into that, and that just creates your consumption of this thing, right? And so we turn this on its head and say, if my consumption is first and foremost me and what I do with my cash and where I invest it, because nobody ever said you saved yourself to a millionaire. You can't save yourself to a millionaire. Thou shalt invest.
Yes.
You must invest. You must invest in something. But understand the assets that you're investing in, have the right coach to get you there. And that's why I go back to holistic planner, because at the end of the day, you must have someone who is the right person for you.
Absolutely.
Interview as many people as you possibly can. I implore you to do that, because I didn't. Interview the consultants that you're getting in your life. I don't care if they're a lawyer, an accountant, or a financial advisor. Everybody has their specialty, and you got to look in the mirror and say, what's the right person? What's the right fit for me? Does that person have a character that fits with me?
Right.
Do I get along with that person? Do they pick up the phone when I call them, or do they take 10 days to get back to me? And so these are the little nuances that you really got to understand as an investor and as a person, that when you want to build something, you really got to get the right advisors. And I think that's where you and I fall into play, is that And there's some good synergies here, because I love what you teach. It's all about the mindset and all these different things that flow into exactly what I'm trying to coach on, which is, let's get out of that paradigm. And it's funny, I got this email today. I'm good. So going back to the closed-minded scenarios that we talked about the last couple of days is, I'm going to let that person stew on that comment, because at the end of the day, are you? Because what they don't know is what they don't know until they've had a conversation with a professional. And I hope that they open their mind up to exploring options and saying, I'm good in the scenario I think I'm in. But once I have a different conversation with someone else, maybe they're going to explain to me something that I've never heard before, or the other person didn't tell me. And so
every person that you have a conversation with, especially when you're talking about stuff like this, every person that you have a conversation with, every perspective that you can get, every different perceptions are going to lead you to your ideal path. And to me, when people shut out ideas or a different person's perspective, you're really kicking yourself, because you're shutting down the opportunity to potentially learn something from somebody else that has gone through challenges and maybe went through different challenges that can shed light on something else. So I'm always eager, especially if it's someone that I admire and I think that they're doing a great job, share as much information as possible with me. I will spend all the time in the world to just absorb, because I want to absorb their mindset. I want to shape my believing systems to their believing systems when they are successful. I don't want to take on the believing systems of others. Now, I'll be a guiding light for them, but I want to be able to constantly be focused on myself and adjust those beliefs.
Exactly.
Because the beliefs are what shapes the outcome.
100%.
It's the fuel.
100%.
Do you have anyone that ever resists what you say?
All the time. It's very hard to break a paradigm. One of the reasons why I give that mind map is because we have to understand the first thing we encounter is the ego. When we go into the subconscious mind, the first barrier we're going to encounter is the ego. I am this, I am not this. I want this, I don't want this. I know this, and I don't know that. So if you understand those three characteristics as you go into the ego, you understand like, well, I'm not that person or whatever it is. Like, okay, but do you want to change? Do you want to become that person? Because if you don't have a goal to become that person, then you have to leave the I am that I am right now behind and step into the new I am that I want to be. And understanding how to believe and become is the shifting mechanism in it. Because if you don't believe that you can, you won't.
Correct.
It's pretty simple. You just won't.
Yep.
If you believe that you can, if you can be a conscious creator in your life, then you will consciously seek out people that are doing
That's what I was going to say.
things that are making an impact and making a difference and creating structurally
Yes.
the financial part. And anybody that says money is not the most, no, money is the most important thing. Every single thing costs money. Every single thing costs money. You cannot eat without money. Even if you're going to a charity, somebody donated, they spent their money to give money to the charity for you to get free food.
That's right.
So everything costs money. So the concept that we don't pay enough attention to it blows my mind.
And as going back to belief and filling your mind with positive things, and one is you believe you can or you believe you can't. You're right. And if you fill your mind with, and you're surrounded by people that are always negative Nelly, so to speak, be careful because you're going to get trapped. If you want something more, and there's something inside your core that says, if I just could, I really would love to do that, then do it. Don't waste your time. Life is too short to waste your time. Please don't waste your time, because time goes by so quickly, and you look in the mirror, you go, I'm what? How old am I? I can't believe it. And it's crazy. And so you start looking out, and I said, only 22 years to 80. What?
Yeah.
22 years. You know what happened in the last 22 years? And I know my health is going to start to get a little more challenging to keep up in the next 22 years. So what am I going to do now to fulfill the dreams that I've had and keep going? But what I want to really mention is that, like, when you're looking at Facebook or something like that, I look at Facebook and I look at all these coaches and mentors and things like that. Everybody's out there delivering a message, and it's so powerful because everybody has something a little bit different to add. Your Dale Carnegie's, your Brian Tracy's. Everybody's got something a little bit different. And you just take the nugget that you think is going to help you, and then start to believe in yourself.
Absolutely.
And take the action to move forward.
We're getting ready to wind down here. Please share with our guests how they can reach out to you, Mauro.
So my website is the number one. So you and I wrote books together with Brian Tracy. My books for sale, both the paperback and the ebook, are on sale on the website. And the website is campagnarowealth.ca. So again, my last name, CAMPAGNARO wealth.ca.
Thank you. Nadia, do you want to share?
No, I just want to thank you for hosting us for the last couple of days. It was very mindful and mind-blowing.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for being there. SublimeKnowledge.com, guys, you know where to find me. And thank you. Thank you both for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank
Great
you.
information. Thank
Much
you.
appreciated. Thank you.